Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jim.
So, people try to put us down just because we get around. You want to talk about my generation?
Well, there aren't too many of them left, so it won't take too long.
All right, well, let's go to Gen Z then.
Okay, then. And welcome to Two Guys Talking About Records, your weekly broadcast where myself, Steve Carlson, a record collector, and
Jim Gleason, a record store owner,
are going to talk to you about whatever just pops on our mind, which sometimes takes a while.
But we'll get there once the gears start rolling.
Yes.
We can kick it in. But we had a couple of interesting articles, and I think we are going to talk about the generational aspect of vinyl collecting and purchases.
Yes, the world is a changing place, and sometimes we don't know it.
Ever forward. Speaking of ever forward, though, what kind of goodies did you pick up this week?
Well, yeah, what did I? Okay, I picked up Dig Lazarus Dig from Nick Cave. Now, this was something I had on CD years ago. I think it came out in 2008. And when I was down in North Carolina, I saw it on the wall and I grabbed it. I go, oh my God, I didn't know this was released. It was released in 2015. I didn't even know that. I hadn't seen it, but I put it back. Then lo and behold, one of those emails that come out from some record, place, where they sell I think exclusive vinyl, something like that. We got a big sale, $5, $10, $15 vinyl. There it was, over 33% off. Grabbed that, and it's been my favorite Nick Cave. Now, I'm not an expert on Nick Cave, so I'm sure there's a lot of great albums I don't have a clue about, but I love this album.
Does that fall more into the solo stuff of Nick Cave or the birthday party era where it's a little weirder?
More of the solo. He has a band, and it's very much a rock album, so it's not like the super quiet, introspective stuff he does, and it's definitely not that super weird birthday party that I'm trying to wrap my head around. But I also got in the first of the Blue Note being done by Third Man Record. Yeah. And they released two of them that just came out. One's in white vinyl, one's in blue. And Jim can see them, but none of you can. But what's nice is it looks just like a Blue Note album. The back is exactly how the Blue Note albums come out. Good artwork, but on the inside, the label is yellow. So instead of Blue Note, well, it does say Blue Note, it's just in yellow with the Third Man Record.
Beautiful vinyl, too.
It is. And they sound excellent. The one it's called Detroit to New York Junction Thad Jones. That album goes for, tons of money to get an original, and it just hasn't been put back out. So this, if you want to buy an original, you're going to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars, or you can get the Third Man reissue. Great bebop, hard bop. The other one from Donald Byrd came out in the early 70s. It's called Electric Bird. It's really interesting. Donald Byrd brings in electric organ. Everything's going electric right now. So this is Donald Byrd's kind of foray into it. His trumpet sounds great in there, but there's a lot more electronic going on behind him. Really good album. Both of them I thought were excellent.
And that's part of that 313 reissue series that we talked about a few weeks back.
Yes, part of the 313. So after 313 of one color, then they're going to switch into a different color of a vinyl for another 313. They're keeping it at that. So it's just like these limited 313 runs.
So those could become collectible like the originals.
They could. Or just there'll be 100 different 100 types of them, and everyone will be totally confused. What about yourself, Jim?
Well, it was a light week. We were on vacation here at the store, so I didn't do a whole lot, but we had kind of a late entry. I had a very small collection come in this week of used vinyl, and of course I take that record store owner prerogative to peruse it first. So I did a couple of upgrades, and they weren't the type of upgrades that I normally would have expected. I think I showed you these the other day when you stopped in. One was REO Speedwagon's High Infidelity. That's an album from my youth, my teenage years.
Yeah.
And I've had that for a while, and I had a very nice copy for a while. The other one was Paul Simon's Greatest Hits, etc., his solo greatest hits. But the interesting thing is both of these are half-speed master versions. I had nice copies of the originals of each of those. And when the half-speed masters came in a collection that has a lot of other half-speed masters, this is going to be an interesting one to go through. I had to stop and think because, A, they sound better, and I did toss a couple of them on. They sound a lot better than even my good copies. But B, the covers are different because they've got that extra stuff on there. The Columbia CBS half-speed master logos are emblazoned on the front there. And some of these other were in the collection were the Nautilus, where they shrink the cover and then put the Nautilus logo. So it's not really the original cover, which takes away, in my opinion, a little bit, but it sounds better. So I don't know where to sit on these. So provisionally, I put these two half-speed masters in my collection, and I'll put my older ones out, and then I'll decide down the line if I want to keep these because the cover's a little bit different or if the vinyl quality outweighs that a little bit.
I'm sure eventually we'll get like a $60, $70 reissue of each of them. And
yes,
you can get that.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Then the other one I added was really kind of an unexpected one. I like the Moody Blues, but I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm a Moody Blues fan or expert or fanatic or anything. I just like their early stuff. You get into that more poppy top 40 stuff because they've been around a long time. Mm-hmm. I don't like that newer stuff, but it's a little odd because when it comes to the Moody Blues, everybody's, you're going to talk about Days of Future Past and Nights in White Satin, which is all right. It's good, but my favorite is actually their third album, In Search of a Lost Chord, which I think is just some great early psych rock, maybe a little bit of prog fitting in there as well. But one that had slipped under my radar somehow was their fifth album, To Our Children's Children. To Our Children's Children's Children. I got to get that right. So that came in as well. Very nice, clean copy. And I thought, you know what? I thought I had this. I didn't. I threw it on. Holy cow. It's on par with In Search of the Lost Chord as far as my liking the Moody Blues go. So It's a really good album. And the thing is, it's cool is they're not expensive albums. They're out there. But this is the one that's got the brown cover. And it's just got that same feel that In Search of the Lost Chord does, where they've got some great symphonic stuff going on in the background. And then there's a little bit of that weird narration like you even get in Days of Future Past. But very surprising. I really liked it, and I'm going to toss that in my Moody Blues collection.
I think, though, the most important thing that you said with these, when we talked about these new albums, is you were on vacation for a week. And that means the record store was closed. And there were all these vinyl junkies walking around Midland. I mean, it was like zombie land out there. They're just going into any kind of store. You got a record. You got a record. Yeah. It was really traumatic here in town. And I just, you just felt for people. I mean, I was personally one of them that had the shakes that night. I'm going to have play a record that I already own. Oh my God!
Oh my!
What am I doing?
The humanity.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I did see your Sunday morning video where you talked about this, and I apologize, but we needed a little break, but that happens. So to make this up to you, and since this is a vinyl community podcast, let's do a little bit of VCLT.
Okay.
Are you ready? Now, would you explain that really quickly for folks who may not be familiar what a VCLT is?
VCLT is a vinyl community love train, and it's something where collectors send a record to someone else they think they might like. It's something maybe they'd been looking for, or something they think, hey, this is something I think you're going to be interested in. Give it a try. So it's really... It's a fun thing to do. After my flood, I received hundreds of albums from people, VCLT. And to this day, I've made a lot of great friends, and we exchange albums.
So on that note, and Steve doesn't know what I'm giving him, so this is going to be a surprise. Here's a little VCLT to help make up for our time off. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
It's Kelly's Heroes. I loved Kelly's Heroes, as we talked about, was one of the greatest movies ever growing up. And we have All Them Burning Bridges on there. That was a top 40 pop song.
It is, but it's a horrible tune.
It is a horrible tune, but
so the soundtrack to Kelly's Heroes that popped in. I've got a good copy already. I thought you might get a kick out of that.
Oh, I do. Yes, I do. That was a heck of a movie. Great Clint Eastwood, where he broke out of the westerns and became a
war movie star.
Yes.
But technically, that is a western still. There's even a showdown scene with a Sherman tank. And we won't get into the movie review side of things.
Yeah.
Because Kelly's Heroes much like the Three Stooges could be a generational thing or even a gender thing.
Yes.
Yeah, look over at my wife and she's shaking her head. It's like, oh, it's Kelly's Heroes again. Oh my God, it's such a cheesy movie.
It's the greatest.
So we get into talking about, well, at least generational aspects of vinyl collecting, which is our topic today. And we shared a couple of articles back and forth earlier this week that it's a little bit dated. We go back to 2021 with a couple of these articles, but it talks about the vinyl resurgence and the younger generation's role that plays into this and how, and I guess without even really realizing it as a record store owner, I am seeing this because people will ask me, what's your demographic here? Must get a lot of old guys coming in looking for records. Well, yeah, I do. Everything from retirees. I've even got he's a 90-year-old retiree that comes in from out of town looking for big band jazz. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have a lot of high school kids and college kids coming in at the same time looking for vinyl. Now, you and I are of an age group. I'm a Gen Xer, and I think you're...
I am the last of the baby boomers.
Last of the baby boomers, and I'm just the leading edge, the very front edge of Gen X. So vinyl was there for us, and turntables were there for us in our youths. For millennials especially, maybe millennials a little bit if they had parents that listened, but Gen Z, I got to get these things straight. It's so hard to keep track of. But Gen Z are really the ones that were born from 1996 onward, the little gray area there. They really did not come of age at all when turntables and vinyl were a thing, except on the fringe for a few collectors and the diehards that hung on through the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, it's true. And so this is all something new to them. What's happened is when you watch a lot of TV shows, movies, what appears now? Turntables. Yeah. Albums, they're showing up on game shows. My God, on game shows. You just won. It's a turntable, and we have 10 records that go with it. The records all suck that they give them. I feel bad for whoever's winning it, but maybe they will like them. But it's just, suddenly it's everywhere, and you're seeing this. And so this generation that wasn't used to it, it's now become fashionable.
It's interesting you mention that. Even on a subliminal, you get a drug commercial where they're listing 35 different side effects that can kill you just to make one thing a little bit better. And there's a turntable in the background, or it shows the people suffering from whatever looking at a record. They're holding it wrong, but they're looking at a record.
Yes.
But even, like you said, it's just appearing in things as just there. And so that has an effect.
It does. It becomes now part of life, and we're showing it. It just creates this interest. And so for many, it's like, that's really neat. This would be cool. It's when we were growing up, we wanted a lava lamp. We just thought having a lava lamp that just made you pretty stinking cool. Now it's a turntable.
Yep. Although they see our lava lamps here in the store and they're like, those are kind of cool, but the new ones just aren't the same.
Nope.
Side note, kids, if you ever open up a vintage lava lamp to see why it doesn't work, don't do that, because then it won't work at all. Just case in point, side note from personal experience. So,
I never knew.
But the articles we talked about, there were a couple that talk about the resurgence. And I'm always hesitant to use the term resurgence in vinyl, but the increase in sales that we had been experiencing, and we talked previously about vinyl outselling compact discs for the first time ever earlier this year. Digging into the numbers, especially back in 21, as a couple of these news articles did, they actually found from RIAA statistics that the Gen Zers bought more vinyl than millennials did. Now, I don't know where that falls in with Gen Xers or baby boomers, but Gen Z, the youngest generation, is outpacing millennials as far as the purchase of their vinyl goes.
Yeah, I had read, and I went through, because this was really interesting when you started to dig into this, and you think about that many young people are buying records. And so I had read that the demographic from 18 to 24 was 24% of all sales. I mean, not 24, 16% of all sales was coming from that group, 18 to 24. Then 25 to 34, it was 33% of all record sales were coming from them. And now even 12 to 14, they're buying more of it. but it's not always for reasons that we think. It's not necessarily to play it.
No, we buy vinyl and we collect vinyl because we listen to it and play it, but you found a couple things that's saying, well, that's really not always the case with Gen Z.
Yes, there was an article I read, it's called Superfan. What is a superfan? And they find a lot of the younger ones have become superfans where they want to support an artist. They want to do whatever they can because they love this artist. Taylor Swift.
Can you name anyone?
Yes, exactly. Harry Styles would be one. There is actually quite a few. Adele, would be one.
Billie Eilish.
And so they want to support this artist because it means a lot to them. So they will buy anything that they put out, but it's not to play. It's to decorate. It's to put up on their walls. It's to have this artwork. Albums, which, when we were growing up, albums were artwork. And when they disappeared, that was probably the most depressing thing because it was artwork, though I never put them on my wall. There they were in picture frames. Now, especially for a younger generation, this becomes important. And when an artist like Swift now I'm doing a different color variant, I'm doing a different cover, these super fans have to have it.
Well, case in point with the Taylor Swift album Midnights that came out earlier this year, there were 4 different cover variants as well as the vinyl color within. But the point of that being is that Swift sold a frame mount and a clock assembly that went in the center of these 4 different cover variants. So the idea being that the Taylor Swift superfan would buy all 4 of those variants at probably, I think they were $35, $40 a piece, and then spend a lot of money on the clock hands and the assembly and the mounting hardware to put all 4 of them on the wall and make a Taylor Swift clock. And the cool thing was the design was such that it fell into the theme of the album, which was Midnights and Time. But now you had a clock face of 4 Taylor Swift albums and all of the assembly for the low, low price of several $100s.
Nothing like squeezing a little extra out of those super fans.
But if you're a super fan,
you want it. You want to have it. You're not going to open those albums.
No.
Those albums are going to sit there for all you know. There's no vinyl in them because you're not going to open them. There it is. But yes, if you're a super fan, you look at that and you feel good. And I would too. If I was in that mode with a group, you would that would be such an important piece and would mean the world to you.
Yep. And so not faulting them for collecting because we collect things for bizarre reasons as well. Just this kind of a vinyl or that kind of a cover or that kind of a label, the Vertigo swirl you talked about.
Yeah. Yes. I don't care what the price is. I want a swirl and I want it now.
So playing into this notion of superfans, I think that the artists, but probably more so the labels, because that's the corporate money driven behind them, have taken to some very interesting just kind of events and or promotions to try to drag these super fans in and really pique their attention. I'm speaking, of course, of this fairly recent concept called a listening party. Now, Taylor Swift did not, do I recall? I don't think they did that. They held their own. The Swifties held their own listening parties when not only the Midnights album came out, but the very recent, I don't want to call it a reissue, but her redoing of Speak Now, the Taylor's version. We talked about her re-recording her stuff. That was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was a big, big event here at our store as well. But listening parties are fairly new. That's coming down on high from the labels, and they're working with the Record Store Day organization to reach the indie stores to help drive more traffic. Recently, there was one for the Metallica 72 Seasons. We didn't take part in that here, but I know some other stores in the area did, and that generates up. But most recently, and that being last week, the week of the 21st, Greta Van Fleet released their new album, Starcatcher, on that Friday, the 21st. Now, the Wednesday before, they had scheduled a listening party, meaning that Greta Van Fleet's label had very, very tightly controlled the release of the music. And I think maybe 2 or 3 of the songs out of the 10 on the album had come out previously online so people could listen to them. So they really elevated this up as this listening party is going to be your chance to hear the album in its entirety before you have even a chance to buy it. So scheduling this thing for Wednesday, and they left it up to the record stores to determine when would be best to do. I know there was one store down in Flint, our friend Mike over at Electric Crown Records started his at noon and ran that throughout the day. Here, because of our time off vacation that harmed so many vinyl junkies, we opted to do it a little bit later because A, we hadn't received any of the promotional material that went along with that, and B, I just needed a little time to get everything back up and running. So we ran ours from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at closing. Now, the interesting thing is when the labels worked with Record Store Day to establish, schedule, and really promote and get out the idea of these listening parties, they sweeten the deal with promotional items to really get the super fans to come in. Yeah. Because basically what you're saying is, hey, you want to listen to this album. You can't buy it until Friday. But if you want to listen to it and get a poster, get a turntable mat, and whatever else the stores want to toss into that, here's your chance ahead of time. Now, for us, that actually worked out really well. I'd not done one of these before. We held that listening party for Greta Van Fleet's Starcatcher on Wednesday at 4 p.m., and between 4 and 6, we had a whole slew of new, younger people in the store, and they spent money while they were here listening to that album in its entirety. They just stood around listening, chatting amongst themselves, enjoying the music, and picking up other vinyl while they were here, which is the whole point.
Yeah. Yep.
So from that standpoint, it worked very well for us.
Perfect way to get people to browse.
Yes.
That is a great idea. Was there any freebies that they got?
There were some turntable mats we had gotten ahead of time, a Greta Van Fleet, very cool looking and high quality turntable mat, but we only had 20 of them. Mm-hmm. And then a poster. They sent me a big stack of posters, really nice posters to give away as well.
Yeah.
So that brought these people in, the chance to get freebies for their super fandom. You know, we're not going to be able to get these turntable mats anywhere else. We're not going to be able to get these posters anywhere else. That brought them in. What didn't happen, though, and this is interesting, and I'm letting you know this, I'm still in process. We record these on Sunday, so the weekend is not done yet. But that did not translate into sales of the album as of yet.
No kidding.
So I'm still kind of at odds as to what happened. We had actually more people at the listening party than came in to purchase the album on Friday and Saturday.
Maybe sometimes we shouldn't play the album beforehand.
I'm not saying that's what happened. They all seem to enjoy it. But I did ask a lot of people at the listening party, saying, hey, you coming back on Friday for it? Well, I already pre-ordered it from the Greta Van Fleet website.
That is a big point.
They came in for the free swag.
Yes. And if you're a super fan, where are you going to be? You're going to be on that website.
Yep.
And that's where you're going to buy it because I'm sure the website might have something super special for the super fan.
A different vinyl variant.
Yes. And that's the one people are going to want.
Yep. And then I guess there was also a Target variant and probably a Walmart variant of it out there as well. I didn't do too much digging into whether or not. So I'm going to be watching this, and the vinyl that we've got here, we've got two different variants, an indie exclusive and a clear vinyl version. They will sell because the Greta Van Fleet stuff sells here in mid-Michigan.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm not worried about it. I was scratching my head a little bit because of the tremendous response to the listening party to the, hey, there's a Greta Van Fleet album in the store on Friday.
Well, you get ready to open Friday. This is going to be great. This is going to be good. And no, where's everyone?
Everybody came in for their regular Friday drop stuff.
But you did sell some additional albums while they were at the listening party.
We did, and that is the purpose of the listening parties, I think, more than anything. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, at the same day as this listening party, there was a listening party to other stores that wanted to participate for the soundtrack to the Barbie album, the movie that just came out as well. Now, the cool thing, I saw some pictures from bigger record stores that did that and or both of them. They had a life-size Barbie toy box that people could stand in for pictures.
That's cool. That's fun. Okay.
So, and I'm sure that there was some other Barbie stuff to give out there. But again, that is bringing people into independent record stores to try to make that part of their routine, their habit. When something fun happens that they're a fan of, they want to go to their indie store first.
And I think you need to do that with a younger generation more so. For us, my age, my favorite group puts out something. Okay, great. I'll come in and get it the day of, but I'm not looking for anything special. But to keep it interesting, to keep people focused. Okay, this is a fun hobby. I want to do more. You have to do that. The other thing with trying to, or what's influencing new people is TikTok. And TikTok has become huge. There was, and here's just a case, there was a surge in the sale of Rumors, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. Now, how many surges can you have on this album is beyond me. But there was a man, his name was Nathan Opodaka. You probably don't know that name. You know him more as 420 Dogface 208. I know. Oh, yeah. Dogface, of course. He posted on TikTok a video of himself skateboarding, sipping cran raspberry juice, playing Dreams from Fleetwood Mac. 60 million views, and the Dreams album sales jumped up. Of course, downloads also jumped up, but huge difference.
I do remember that because it caught our distributors by surprise and caught a lot of people because all of a sudden there was this massive demand for Rumors. Like, where is this coming from? Well, some dude on a skateboard was lip syncing to a song from Rumors, and now all of a sudden everybody wants this.
The power of social media, but who does TikTok?
Yep.
That is the group. And if all these artists, they know that, and so if you're going to promote yourself, you need to do it on TikTok.
Funny side note to this, after this boom exploded with him doing that, Mick Fleetwood did a video mimicking this dude doing it.
Okay.
And I think Stevie Nicks did something as well, just kind of recognizing that this guy had spawned a reinterest, if you will, in their album.
Isn't that, man, it's just crazy. I think, though, one of the more interesting things that we found, so with these younger people buying all these records, many of them don't own turntables. And we did talk about that. They're not playing it. The fact that they were talking was 52% of people buying vinyl own a turntable.
That's incredible to me.
Yes. I mean, now some are buying it before, buying records before they get a turntable. And I think back when CDs came out, I bought CDs for a year and a half before I even had a CD player. It was just, CD players were out of price. They were just costing way too much. Yep. And I was waiting for it to come down and to get the one that I really wanted. So I was buying all these CDs without a CD player. But once I got it, I had a bunch to play. So I could see that coming. Now, I don't know, maybe they own a Crosley and that's not considered a turntable or a stereo system. I don't know. But that's being snobbish.
The other side of this, if I could interject,
yes.
I said I was surprised, and I probably shouldn't have been because we do see that here. It's the supply chain issue. Turntables, new, decent turntables, we sell the Audio-Technicas. They're few and far between, and they're hard to get because of demand and supply issues. So we did have a customer who had been on a waiting list, I think about a month ago for a turntable, and we did finally get her one. But she was coming in buying records just in anticipation of this is going to show up for me sometime.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah, it definitely is a part of it. There was one article I was reading. You and I were considered vinyl 1.0. That's so,
okay.
Feel free. We should get T-shirts on here. I am vinyl 1.0. The new group is called vinyl 2.0. So vinyl 2.0, again, they say 37% of them buy just to display the albums.
Wow.
That is the purpose. This is a trend. It's a fashion statement. This is what I'm making. Now, we all know fashion statements come and go. So the nice thing is the ones that are displaying it, they're sealed records, and they're going to come in, they're going to trade them into you, and the rest of us are going to be able to get some cool records at a better price because a Vinyl 2.0 traded in their wall. So that could be happening. 78% of those, they do say that put them on the wall, do intend to listen to them someday.
Sometime.
Yes, at some time.
Well, herein is another, and I don't want to call it a problem because one person's problem could be another one's, hey, this is cheap vinyl I'm picking up. But we have talked as well here in the store, but not on the podcast, that so far this year, we're more than halfway through 23 now. I have seen a marked increase in the number of younger people bringing their vinyl back to sell or trade, mostly sell. reasons, saying I got to pay for college. I just don't listen to these. It was more expensive to get into than I thought. I just don't want to do this anymore. So there is a backside to this for a lot of these younger people jumping onto this before maybe they've decided whether or not they really want to. And I don't know where this is going to go. We're going to keep watching it. We're taking in what we can take in, but I field many requests a week. Do you buy vinyl? Do you buy vinyl? But at least one of those every 2 weeks or so is from somebody in that younger age group. Maybe they're a millennial, maybe a Gen Z, are saying, I need some money for this. I'm going to sell these records back. And I always feel a little bad because you can't give them what they paid for them.
Yeah, and you're right. They paid a lot because the prices have jumped way up. And also, do you have a market even to sell all of those?
Yes.
Because that is still a lot of the people that come in every week are the Vinyl 1.0 group that come in weekly to get their vinyl feed taken care of, their addiction taken care of. So it does make it tough.
It'll be interesting to see where things go. I mean, there's so many other things coming into play with this, that being the economy. We have a looming UPS strike, which could possibly affect new vinyl getting to the stores coming up here in the next week or two. So you really don't know. It's always kind of a perilous thing of where is this market going to go. I'm encouraged that the young people are still wanting to hop on, and maybe there'll be a vinyl 3.0 after that. But I'm happy to still be in that 1.0 group. I hadn't heard that term before.
Yes.
And yes, there are going to be T-shirts coming now that you've mentioned that.
Yes, I think so. I'm proud to be a vinyl 1.0. When we look at how albums are coming out with all the different packaging and all the different color variants, this again goes to vinyl 2.0. These record companies know that young people, they want different packaging. They want something different. We sit there and we go, oh my God, whatever happened to black vinyl? Oh, it's black vinyl. It's not a big deal to us. But to keep this interest in, this is what they've found. Marketing. I guess it all comes down to marketing. They're looking at this and what do they want?
And you have to be careful with that because all things, and you have worked retail for a while as well, everything's going to be cyclical. So what comes around may not come back around again.
Yes, and the more you do that and you put yourself out and you spread your resources out trying to do this, chances are it's going to bite you eventually. There was one, did we talk about that? They were giving away free records. Did we talk about that in a past broadcast? There was a site, one of these sites where free records, they were giving them away. You just had to pay for postage. They had too many records.
I did hear about that, yes, trying to back off of that supply side.
Yeah. So, this happens. Oops, I think we got a few too many and no one's carrying right now. And so for free, well, you just have to pay for shipping. So,
and this really does come into play for a store like ours, saying, okay, we're a portion new vinyl and a large portion used vinyl, and we try to make that balance for a little bit of everybody. Not all stores do that. There are some you mentioned, and you toured one down in Saginaw that only does new, and then there are other stores that only do used. So,
yep. I was in one down in North Carolina. It was all new vinyl. And I was the oldest person there, not the youngest, by far the oldest person there. The new vinyl, that's what all the younger college kids, high school kids wanted. The parking lot was jam-packed. I had to park over a block away to get into this place. And it was busy, but it was all new vinyl.
So what you're saying is that some record stores should have reserved parking for vinyl 1.0.
Yes.
Because you don't want to walk that far.
And instead of that blue sign with a little wheelchair on it, just put a blue vinyl 1.0. Well, and he went out front.
Yes, plus he's going to walk out with more.
Yes.
With the disposable income.
Exactly.
Food for thought, record store owners. Reserved spots.
Yep. There we go. So for some, vinyl is a fashion statement. For us, it's not quite that fashion statement. It's just a pure love. But however the case is, if people are buying it, that's really what, I don't care why they buy it. It doesn't matter if it's just going on the wall. They're investing in it. And that's great. And it's great for the artists. It keeps them going. But it also helps us so we don't become this world of just digital,
Yep.
which is where it would have went eventually. And guess what? You don't have any physical media. And that's what, the physical part is the exciting thing.
So we'll just ride this wave, and hopefully Gen Z will continue where Gen X and baby boomers leave off. And millennials, you guys do what you do.
Yes. And I don't know what's the next gen do we get?
I don't know. Gen Z, you would think would be did they know something we don't?
Maybe we just start over at Gen A.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, Steve. Well, this has been a great one. Young folks, we dig it. And I'm already dating myself by using the term dig it, didn't I?
That's right. Well, that was real groovy, though.
All right. Well, you folks have a great week. And until then, this has been Jim. I'm a record store owner.
And Steve, a record collector.
You guys have been listening to two guys talking about records, a Vinyl Community podcast. As always, Steve, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.